Welcome to the CyberRants podcast, where we're all about sharing the forbidden secrets and slightly embellished truths about corporate cybersecurity programs. We're ranting, we're raving, and we're telling you the stuff that nobody talks about on their fancy website and trade show giveaways, all to protect you from cyber criminals. And now, here's your hosts, Mike Rotondo, Zach Fuller, and Lauro Chavez.
Hello and welcome to the CyberRants podcast. This is your co-host, Zach Fuller, joined by Mike Rotondo and Lauro Chavez. And today we are going to be talking about a few things that have happened in the news and just see where the conversation goes, too. There's always something interesting coming out when we don't pre-plan a topic, but just talk about some of the stuff that's going on out there. So with that said, Mike, why don't you just tee us up, get us going, tell us if there's any good news, but probably not. Maybe it's just news.
I never have good news. So I'm still suffering over the vodka shortage that the vodka hack in Ukraine. So bear with me. It's been a couple of weeks. So here we go. Goodwill ransomware has arrived. It was either creepy, weird spin on Robinhood, a ransomware gang is encrypting data and then forcing each victim to perform 3 good deeds before they can download a decryption tool. The so-called Goodwill ransomware group, first identified by CloudSec's threat intel team, doesn't appear to be motivated by money. Instead, it is claimed that they require victims to do things such as donate blankets to homeless people, take needy kids out for pizza, and then document these activities on social media in photos or videos. The victims must also write an article on social media about how you transformed yourself into a kind human being by becoming a victim of ransomware called Goodwill. The operators are allegedly interested in promoting social justice rather than conventional financial reasons.
I kind of like that. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. It's
It's not like they can just target bad people, right? I mean, they're just going off. They're just looking for exposure,
right?
And probably hit anybody with it. So I mean, you could hit Mother Teresa with this and be like,
right,
demanding.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that they're randomly judging you as not a good person and deciding that you're going to have to transform yourself.
I know there's a lot of different opinions out there, but I do believe that overall people are good. So it's kind of a crappy thing to do, but anyway, that maybe
now corporations not necessarily are good. And
some are, yeah,
some but people, sure. And we'll not talk about government.
Well, corporation is just an entity, really. It's just a legal structure. So Is it good or is it bad? I don't know. Maybe it is the people within the corporations. But anyway,
you either believe they're there to crush the proletariat or to promote the common good. It's one of the two.
Oh, philosophical cybersecurity Fridays.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Bust out a cup of coffee or a nice cup of tea and relax and listen to the sultry sounds of news from cyber sector.
Who are we? I don't even remember.
Ransomware attacks need less than 4 days to encrypt systems. This is actually a little scary. The duration of ransomware attacks in 2021 averaged 92.5 hours, measured from initial network access to payload deployment. In 2022, ransomware actors spent an average of 230 hours to complete their attacks and 1,637.6 hours in 2019. This data was collected by researchers at IBM's X-Force from incidents analyzed in 2021. They also noticed a closer collaboration between initial access brokers and ransomware operators. Previously, network access brokers might wait for a couple of days or even weeks before they found a buyer for their network access. In addition, some ransomware gangs now have direct control over their initial infection vector, which they didn't have previously. The performance of the threat detection and response systems in 2021 improved since 2019, but this was not sufficient according to the researchers. The most impressive development in this area is endpoint detection solutions. In 2019, only 8% of targeted organizations had such capability, while in 2021, this percentage grew to 36%. My concern is, why is it still only 36%? In terms of alerts generated by security tools, data shows that 42% of attacked organizations were warned in a timely manner in 2019. Last year, alerts were delivered in 64% of the network intrusion cases promptly. 2 things that pop into my head is someone at IBM a big fan of Deadpool for the X-Force comment? So,
yeah, well, I'd hope so.
It's pretty spectacular drop in numbers. But anyway, moving on. Chrome Loader browser hijack provides gateway to bigger threats. This is an interesting thing. Chrome Loader may seem on the surface like a run-of-the-mill browser hijacker that merely redirects victims to advertisement websites. However, Chrome Loader is a pervasive and persistent browser hijacker that eventually manifests as a browser extension. modifying victims' Chrome settings, and redirecting user traffic to advertisement websites. On Windows machines, victims become infected with the malware through ISO files that pose as a cracked video game or pirated films or TV programs. Chrome Loader uses a PowerShell. Use of PowerShell could pose a greater risk by leading to further and advanced malicious activity, such as the propagation of ransomware, spyware, or theft of browser session data. Researchers are warning of the potential for Chrome Loader, which has seen a resurgence in activity recently, to pose a more sophisticated threat than typical malvertisers do, according to two separate blog posts by Malwarebytes and Red Canary. 3.6 million, that's million with an M, MySQL servers found exposed online. Shadow server researchers scanning the internet for exposed MySQL servers said they received more than 2.3 million IPv4 and 1.3 million IPv6 addresses in response to their connection requests on port 3306, indicating the connected servers were wide open to attack. Of the more than 3.6 million exposed MySQL servers, most were located in the US, with more than 740,000, followed by China with more than 296,000, and Poland, for some reason, with 207,000. And lastly, Sidewinder hackers plant fake Android VPN app in Google Play Store. Phishing campaigns attribute to an advanced threat actor called Sidewinder involved a fake VPN app for Android devices published on Google Play Store, along with a custom tool that filters victims for better targeting. Sidewinder relies on a fairly large infrastructure which includes more than 92 IP addresses, mainly for phishing attacks, hosting hundreds of domains. Subdomains used as command and control servers. Sidewinder is an APT group that's been active since at least 2012 with a relatively high level of sophistication. There's a couple other things in here that you need to be aware of. Microsoft Office apps are vulnerable to IDN homographic attacks. Microsoft did share the mitigation for Office zero-day exploited in attacks. So there's a couple of things out there. And China Link TA413 group actively exploits Microsoft Felina zero-day flaw. So there's a couple Microsoft issues going on as well. With that, boys, where do we go?
I think it's my turn to talk about exploits, but I don't remember.
That's right.
It's been 3 weeks. So
that's right.
I was supposed to have some exploits to talk about today. Luckily, I do. Just to kind of follow up on your Felina vulnerability from Microsoft, I think this is important for a couple reasons. One is that there's other than Microsoft's patch, there's really kind of an unknown amount of time that this has been going on. This was kind of accidentally stumbled upon by researchers. And there's a lot of articles on this, so I urge you to look into this. And we're specifically talking about the Microsoft Word document that manipulates the Microsoft diagnostic tool. So if you're out there and you're looking at this, you're going to find references to CVE 2021. That's 40444 for this. It, again, stumbled upon, and then Microsoft's like, oh, we'll fix that, and you're kind of left wondering, how long has this been going on? I mean, it's Microsoft, so this shouldn't shock you at all. What's cool about this is that this file, this a rich text format file in Microsoft Word that you can generate, has the ability to run lots of things outside of PowerShell and outside of this Microsoft's Microsoft's diagnostic tool. So I was doing some poking around because as a security researcher, this is just super interesting to me on how they figured this out. And like other security researchers out there who have way more time than I do, specifically Clevirus going to give you a shout out on GitHub. Man, he's got a fully weaponized payload for generating one of these. Now before you panic, Microsoft's patched this, so if you haven't updated your Microsoft Office, please do so, because this is not the only one I've seen. This is probably one of the best ones that I've seen out there today. This fully weaponized version of Felina for CVE 2021 40444. So very, very interesting. Go check that out on GitHub. There's a lot of other ones out there. And then the other one I want to talk today is if you're running if you're running F5, Big Five. If you're running
F5, it's a big mess.
If you're running F5, it's a big five mess. Forever. Apologies. But if you've got F5 technologies and you're running one of their big IPs that's got version 16.0 installed, make sure you're updating that, because we've got a remote code execution proof of concept that's out there, and it can execute all types of things that could possibly get a remote attacker root. So there's a lot of DLLs that the RCE can call. There's some POCs available on GitHub. Some appear to be incomplete, but there are some that do look like they would get you pretty close. Okay, so if you're on F5 Big IP 16.0, make sure you update off that. Awesome. So that's all we have for exploits today. Zach, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I know we've got, well, a good conversation. Hopefully we know what planet we're on today. Vodka shortage.
Oh, hopefully. Yeah, it might be a little rusty after a couple weeks off. And just everybody, listeners should know in advance that we're going to be out next week as well. Summer is here. There's traveling. There's lots of busy stuff going on, work, all kinds of good things happening. But that said, we apologize for the inconsistency, because I know you jump out of bed every week whenever this launches, I think usually Tuesdays, and are excited to listen to this podcast. So I apologize for that. But we will get back into a little bit more of a consistent routine here. But that being said, let's take a quick commercial break and be right back.
Want even more CyberRants? Be sure to subscribe to the CyberRants podcast. Get your copy of our best-selling book, CyberRants, on Amazon today. This podcast is brought to you by Silent Sector, the firm dedicated to building world-class cybersecurity programs for mid-market and emerging companies across the U.S. Silent Sector also provides industry-leading penetration tests and cyber risk assessments. Visit silentsector.com and contact us today.
And we're back. As a quick reminder, all the news articles are at the cyberrantspodcast.com. On each episode page, you can click through, read the full articles that Mike shares, and you can also leave your comments, questions, thoughts, smart remarks, all that good stuff right there, or reach out on LinkedIn, because I don't think any of us has any other social media presence.
I was just saying, I would like to hear some comments on the Goodwill ransomware, see what people think about that.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, is that any better, Goodwill ransomware, any better or worse than demanding money? I mean, I don't know. It's still, I guess, extortion in a way, right?
It is. It's extortion of good deeds. I mean, it's like, I think it's it's certainly a backhanded way to go about it, but you must appreciate the change of, the change of goal from, it being, give me bunches of Bitcoins to, okay, if you go donate some clothes to the homeless and take this grandma for a walk around the block and get her groceries, we'll give you access to your files back. I mean, in one way, it's like helping teach people to be more secure and also helping them to be better people. And it's also, in another light, still cybercrime and extortion. So
right. And is it still a good deed if you were forced to do it?
Yeah, that's true. It's not.
It depends on if the person you're doing it to appreciates it or not, I guess.
I don't know.
I thought it more, a good deed comes from a place of love and appreciation and free will, not from being forced to do it.
I don't know, because my mom used to smack me with the belt and make me go mow the neighbor's yard, and the neighbor was really, really happy about that.
Yeah, but were you?
They would. Well, no, of course. I mean, no. I mean, I didn't want to be out there in the sweaty Texas sun, like mowing the neighbor's yard. However, I got to use the trampoline and the pool, and the neighbor was super, super nice. And they were older. They were an older couple, and they had their grandkids would come over, and they were my age at the time, and so we'd all play in their backyard. But yeah, no, my mom would always make me mow their yard too. And you see that's kind of how I'm like, I didn't like getting threatened with the belt for not finishing the mowing. However, it did have pretty decent return. I mean, in one, I didn't get beat, and in two, I got to use a pool and a trampoline that I didn't have. So.
Well, you also probably deserved it, right? And then, and she gave you a good work ethic, right? So
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I don't have PTSD or anything when I see a lawnmower, not at all.
Well, let's talk about your emotions, Laura, while we're on it. Do we need a little therapy session?
No, this is always therapy. No, so really, right? I mean, it's kind of like a nudge, right? Sometimes people need to be nudged into realizing that they should kind of go back to their core of humanity, that we're all, like you said, I do have the belief as well that we're all good people, right? Sometimes we get wrapped up in things. And, again, like, it depends, right? I mean, if Mrs. Smith, appreciated you carrying, her groceries from her house to her apartment, because she has to do it and, she's older and all this stuff, then, you don't have to say anything, I mean, if you're groveling the whole time, then yeah, maybe it's probably not an enjoyable experience for her. But if you just carried the thing and you're filming it on social media just to prove to the hacker that you did a good deed, I mean, at the end of it, Mrs. Smith is up there. She's like, "Oh, he was such a nice boy. He carried my groceries all the way home."
You should want to help Mrs. Smith anyway. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but how many people would, right? I mean, there's a lot of us, right? Like, we would see that and go, "Oh, can I help you get your car with your groceries?" But there's so many people that just say, "Whatever, she can do it."
Well, and I know this has changed since post-COVID. Like, we've become less civilized post-COVID because of the isolation. The people aren't used to interacting with other people. And
is that why you raise a fist every time I come over to your house? You like, it's a kind of just a reaction to.
Well, no, that's the toned down version of what I wanted to do.
Fair enough.
I have the answer to Goodwill ransomware is do good things on a regular basis. The problem is that most people that do good things don't film those things or get social proof that they did. That kind of defeats the purpose too. It's like, hey, look, I'm doing that. Like all this, like the people on social media that go out and do these good things and film it to get, a sensational post that gets a ton of views and likes and shares. Like that, is that really a good deed? I don't know. I mean, that seems more like just self-promotion or something like that. So that's the whole problem with this is you're having to film and do all this stuff while you're doing a good deed.
What if you're not on social media? Like me, I don't got no social media. So what am I supposed to do?
Well, not get hacked for one. I mean, first off, I mean, I think a lot of the people that are getting hit here are, individuals that aren't privy to the types of, cyber criminal snare traps that are out there.
Right.
And so this happens to be, essentially, I guess in the climate of hacker traps, this is probably one you wouldn't mind falling in. You still don't want to fall in it. So I'd urge everybody to, pay attention to the places that you're going, and sure you've got pop-up blockers. And, it's the other thing I've been telling people is that, that if you're doing Google search and you're going to try to go to one of the first 3 or 4, top results, you're probably going to get yourself in trouble. Read through, right? Use some, clever Google dorking or Google switches to try to really isolate what it is you're looking for, and try to get into page 2, page 3 as well. And try to ignore those first 5 top ones, because just like everybody, or just like marketing companies use SEO, the bad guys are using SEO to push results of common things to the top of the search results in hopes that you'll click on it, right? Everybody looking for, the new crawfish recipe or whatever, right? From Stale Cracker. So be careful of those things, and you won't get yourself in this situation. But I guess of all the traps to fall in, it could be worse.
Can we expand on that? Because that's actually been a topic that's on my mind, because I've had several conversations lately, people reaching out about browser security specifically. In one instance is the classic example of, the browser pops up a window that looks like a antivirus notification right on their screen, and they're not educated users. They fall for it. They call the number. They do all that kind of stuff. That unfortunately happens, I think, too often. Can we just take a few minutes and just talk about safe browsing, browser security, plugins, all that good stuff? Any top recommendations or anything you would share with the audience about any browsing configurations, anything like that?
There's a couple tools from Bitdefender that I use. One's called Stoplight. There's another one that will block. They're browser plugins that will block certain executables and that sort of thing. So Bitdefender has a pretty good suite for that. Not that I'm plugging Bitdefender, I'm just telling you what I use. And it's actually so good to the point where I had a problem. I was trying to pay a bill online that I had to step through their code and see where I was failing and figure out what I had to turn off blocking for that specific site. So I mean, it's good. It restricts. It keeps that from happening. So I mean, there's even Laura talked about don't click on one of the first couple ads. There's times when I've accidentally done that. I've been in a hurry, and the defender will pop up and say, "Nope, you can't go there."
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So to be quick about, my advice is always for everybody that's looking through the public Internet of Things through the lens, which is your web browser, right? It's really what it allows you to do is do that exploring. Is to trust nothing and no one.
Yeah.
Everything is paper mache essentially, and so personally, I don't use. My advice is, there are browsers that have larger problems than others. Notoriously, Google Chrome, because of its ability to be very fast and efficient, has unfortunately had a lot of weaknesses lately. I mean, even Mike, you were just talking about the Chrome loader. So there are a lot of web browsers out there that have native problems with them. Right? They're just software like every other software vendor. So number one, make sure that you're keeping not only your computer up to date, but your web browser up to date. And that's as easy as turning on automatic updates for Chrome. It'll automatically update as soon as you're on the internet and it has a new version. It'll pull down. My advice is, I'm a huge Safari user, right? I'm an Apple guy. I'm a Microsoft engineer that is now a Microsoft not engineer, but I obviously still have to be. But I use Apple all the time, and so I'm using the Apple Safari browser now. Safari, being from Apple, is limited in some of the capabilities that you'll get out of it that you won't get in Chrome. However, I do believe it to be slightly safer because it does not allow certain things to happen that like Chrome will, and not to get into specifics, but I don't use any browser extensions. I don't use any kind of browser-based protections. I would caution everybody to install plugins, especially in Chrome and Firefox. Those are rampant areas for manipulation and modification of your local PC. So, be very weary of any add-ons that you're adding onto your browser, right? And think about how that's going to add a new weakness. And I always tell people, just don't go to the places you're not supposed to go. If you're just looking at news articles and you're just going to, the main sites, your Yahoos, your Bings, your Googles, your Fox Newses, your MSNBCs, your CNNs, whatever, right? Your Al Jazeera's, it doesn't matter what website you're going to. A lot of these larger sites have native security built in. It's going to be a lot harder for a cyber criminal to get a foothold at CNN. Okay. So if you're staying in places that are reputable, you very, very, very greatly lower your chances of risk while you're looking through your browser lens to the public Internet of Things. The moment you start doing weird stuff, looking for hacked video games or software hacks or prawn or anything adult related, exactly, you're gonna start getting into the realm of possibilities that are going to be very high that there's going to be malicious content that is going to be trying to get injected into your browser and onto your machine.
Back to the plugins also. I mean, realities, people in different sectors are going to have to use certain plugins for certain things. If, for example, if you're in marketing, you probably use something like a HubSpot plugin, right? And so if you're going to use browser plugins, make sure you're using the big name, reputable plugins from the organization. It's actually certified by that organization. It's not your fly by night. I think there's so many plugins out there that are not really verified by anybody. They just, people get into all kinds of stuff, and these things promise the world, but don't really deliver. But I think there are a few plugins that are beneficial. Like, for example, if you're using a password management tool like 1Password, for example, I think I would think it would be safe to use a 1Password plugin in your browser, right? Make it work seamlessly on your machine. So just keep that in mind, and fewer plugins is better. And then I would also, obviously, antivirus, right? Your anti-malware, antivirus solution should not be what comes on your Windows box, right? Get something you should pay $50 a year for at least, and get something of quality, and that's going to stop when you try to inadvertently, your browser starts downloading something. It should be catching that. for you.
The
Yeah,
other
like the
thing
Bitdefender
I'll add,
plugins I use are part of the actual antivirus Bitdefender solution that I use. So it's actually a holistic piece. So that type of tool is excellent. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm not banging on all plugins. I mean, if you've got like top vendor products that offer plugins to your browser to extend that security protection, certainly look into those. But there's a lot of stuff out there in like the Chrome store that, again, promises the world to do a bunch of weird stuff. And those are the ones that I'm talking about specifically. You're taking a lot of risk to try to cut some of the workload that might be there. Open up another tab, right? Or open up another window. And the other thing I'll suggest is download VirtualBox, right? Doesn't matter if you're on Windows or you're on an Apple machine. Get VirtualBox made by Oracle. It's a virtualization software, and install something. Linux, right? I mean, anything basic, and you can use one of the native browsers there. And if you need to go do nefarious things, or you need to look up stuff that's unworthy of your regular operating, your daily secured computing stuff, use that virtual machine. If anything happens, it's typically contained in the virtual machine. You can delete it. It's no big deal, right? Big difference than taking over your main system.
Well, the other thing is, don't run as admin, right? Don't run, create a separate user that you use for your day-to-day, and then have an admin account on the box that you use. I mean, that's what we recommend. We go through a CIS or a NIST or some sort of, risk analysis and assessment. One of the things we recommend is the end users should not have administrative access to their box. That rule should apply to you at home as well. Just because you're on your home computer doesn't mean that's not a good idea anymore.
Yeah, good point, Mike. And I would agree with you. If you're using an Apple device, create yourself a new user, and take that admin account and write that password and put it in a safe someplace, and just use the user. And same thing in Windows. If you're using a Windows machine, go into the user settings and create yourself a new user, give it user rights, and you can always elevate, right? Knowing that admin password. If you need to do something that requires admin privileges, you can type it in, right? Just like a sudoers type access in Linux. And that'll limit, hopefully, the amount of access, if you do get malware, that it can contaminate the machine, hopefully just based on the user shell that you're using.
Right. Don't forget to clear your cache, and basically wipe all memory from your browser once in a while, because that'll help speed things up, but also you get rid of a lot of the adware and stuff, and retargeting and all that kind of stuff. Yep, all that just clear out.
I actually do that every time I close my browser.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, tracking cookies are for real, and they're kind of a pain in the butt. So yeah, that's just good housekeeping, right? Good. Keep the lens that you're looking to the public internet things with very clean, right? Just like if you were looking at the stars through a telescope.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's most, and I think most browsers now have it's basically one click, clear everything: cookies, cache, browsing history, all of that, and then don't save your passwords in the browser.
Yeah,
definitely don't do that. That's bad. But anyway, well, I didn't mean to divert us too long, but I thought that was a topic probably worth discussing, because it is a point of failure for organizations, and something that everybody has to use. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, the fact is that if you work for a large company, you probably got issued a device to use for that organization, and it's got all the protections in place. But it's yourself and your significant others and your family that's using the home computer that is gonna look for some hack on a game, or how to beat a boss in Elden Ring, or something like that, and then they're going to get sent to a page that's going to be able to manipulate that browser. So don't forget that if you're keeping everything else in the house clean, make sure that your compute devices are also part of that housekeeping.
Yep.
Outstanding. Yeah, well, we have a couple more minutes here. We can dive into a new topic shortly, or were you going to say something, Mike?
Yeah, I was just going to say, dovetailing off what you were talking about, downloading extensions from, the App Store or wherever. There was that story we just talked about, that Sidewinder hackers plant fake Android VPN app in the Google Play Store. You have to be careful. So yeah, these free when you get something for free, you generally get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The best way that the hacker ever got into someone's computer was by creating a game that had a remote access Trojan in it that everybody wanted to play, and everybody downloaded it on their phone. And immediately, the individual had access to millions of devices. And so again, if you are just looking at the face value of like, oh, I got to have this, pretty colors, pretty features, especially with a plugin, you can get yourself in problems. And the same exists. That's why we don't talk about WordPress, Mike.
Right. Friends don't let friends talk about WordPress or use it.
Exactly.
You brought it up.
If I ever bring you a WordPress subscription for your birthday, I don't like you.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it too. I mean, there's a lot of data mining tools out there. Like, on Facebook, there used to be those quizzes and all that kind of stuff that you would do. That's all just data mining. So I don't know if they still do. I haven't been on Facebook in probably 10 years, but
they still do. They ask, like on Reddit, they ask general questions. Like if it's like kind of these weird, complex philosophical questions about humanity. And then a bunch of people respond. And of course, all that goes into a database for probably AI decision making.
Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of social media, Twitter and all the fake accounts and the whole thing going on with Elon Musk. I mean, that's pretty interesting stuff. And we were talking the other day, off the podcast, I remember I think the numbers are quite a bit more than what they're actually saying as far as bots go. And I mean, I would say that's got to be the case. I
think Twitter said that it's less than 5%, and now Musk is pushing and saying it's more than 20%.
Yeah, I guess bots. It's probably 40. I'd say it's probably 60-40, right? 60 real, 40 bot. Yeah. I've had people that I know that have lost on Twitter significant amounts of followers, thousands and thousands. And interestingly enough, they were having full conversation with these NPCs, right? These are bots that have machine learning on the back end, and they can have a whole conversation with you. And these people really thought these were real people, and come to find out that they had 50,000 followers, and they did the bot flush, and now they have 90 followers.
Yeah, I got a suggestion. Get out of your house, go meet real humans, and that is better than Twitter.
Yeah, when's the last time we were around? Whoa, hold on. When's the last time we were out in the desert, like running RC buggies, around I mean, that sounds fun. That sounds better than tweeting. We can go get some RC cars and tear them up in the dirt.
Yeah, I've never been a Twitter person. I just never
tweeted.
I've never. Yeah, I mean, it just never really appealed. But I know there are a lot of people out there doing that. But it'd be interesting. Send us a note how you feel about this whole thing. Have you been chatting with a bot for the last 3 years and thought you were in love? What's
we won't use your real name.
Twitter account. yeah, I promise. We'll say it backwards, and nobody will ever know.
But it reminds me of a Big Bang episode where one of the characters gets caught by his wife playing around with a character on a video game, and it turns out that it's like the janitor at the building he works at or something like that.
That's right.
This is actually, there is a level of I mean, we joke and stuff because it's Twitter or whatever, but there is a level of seriousness to this for a lot of people out there, especially in the marketing space, because all these social media influencers and all that would get paid huge money because of this following that they had, and they thought, oh well, I got hundreds of thousands of followers, and really it's like 50 actual human beings, and the rest are bots. Yeah. So marketers flushing money down the toilet to get their message out to machines.
Yeah,
and
I think it's a big psyops exercise. Is all Twitter is.
My best friend's a bot.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's a country or two that is producing most of these in order to accelerate visibility of certain news articles and things that work in their favor, and false tweets and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've seen that over and over. But that's a whole rabbit hole. But I just thought that was interesting what's going on there. And I think You know what I hope though is I hope it gets people to put a little less emphasis on social media and a little more emphasis on real life and real people. That I think would be a good thing that could come out of all this. Go to your local cigar lounge, have a cigar,
There we go.
meet the people, or go to the park, or go hiking or something like that.
Go carry Mrs. Smith's groceries without taking a picture of it and putting it on social media to give yourself likes. You know what I mean?
Whoa, what?
Don't check in. Don't.
Don't check into everywhere you go. Look, I'm here. My house.
And nobody wants to see what you're eating. Nobody wants to see what you're eating. Nobody cares.
Yep. Or drinking.
Yeah.
That being said.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many good pictures of food, and I've gone to those restaurants, and my picture didn't look like that. Pretty much like the McDonald's Big Mac on the picture of the thing doesn't look like when you get it in the box. So it's a sham anyway.
Yeah. When you spend more time photoshopping your photo to post it on Instagram than you do actually eating the meal, that's a problem.
That's a problem. My burger's cold. Can you send this back? I took too long to get the food filter on this so that it looked delicate. So delicious.
And the person with you's already eaten and gone.
It's trying to adjust the tint on my sushi.
All right. Well, that's enough for today. We've ranted enough, but good stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the CyberRants podcast. Again, cyberrantspodcast.com is where you can find the news articles and reach out to us. We hope you enjoy these episodes. Always interested in your thoughts. We thank you for sharing those, and more to come on future episodes here, and we'll see you on the next one.
Pick up your copy of the CyberRants book on Amazon today. And if you're looking to take your cybersecurity program to the next level, visit us online at www.silentsector.com. Join us next time for another edition of the CyberRants podcast.